We have some news out of London today. Buckingham Palace says Prince Harry and Meghan Markle will no longer be working members of the royal family. In a statement, Queen Elizabeth said Harry, Meghan, and Archie will always be loved members of my family, but she recognizes the challenges and intense scrutiny they've experienced. As a result, Meghan and Harry will no longer receive public funds and will no longer use their titles. Joining us now is CBS News foreign correspondent MTS Tyab. MTS, fill us in on the details. What does this mean for Harry and Meghan in real-world terms?
Omar, it means a lot. This statement, which has been put out by the Queen, and I should say, this is a very personally worded statement. You don't hear the Queen putting out statements like this, just saying things like, much loved members, going further to say, particularly proud of how Meghan has so quickly become part of her family, really underscoring the fact that this involves her grandson, his wife, and her great-grandson. But really, what we're seeing here is something what a top royal watcher is calling seismic. This is big. This is a very major shift for a front-line royal. Harry, as we've been saying, is obviously the Queen's grandson, but he's also the future king, Prince Charles' son, and the brother of the next in line, William. So this is at the tippy top of the royal family. So for him to step back like this is pretty big. Now, how it's going to work in real terms? Well, let's just take a look at this statement from the Queen. It says that they will no longer, the couple, Harry and Meghan, will no longer receive royal funds. Of course, a lot of their lives are funded by the monarchy. Some of it also from the UK taxpayer as well. But this is important as well. They're also going to lose what's known as the HRH title, His Royal Highness. He is no longer His Royal Highness. He is still Prince Harry. He is still the Duke of Sussex, and Meghan will still be the Duchess of Sussex, but it means they can no longer, say, on letterhead have the sort of monarchy's sort of symbol, if you will. That in itself is very big, again, because he's such a senior member of the royal family. But the couple has also said for themselves, and this is sort of addressing some of the criticism they've had here in the UK, when Harry and Meghan got married, they moved into a cottage which is on the grounds of Windsor Castle, which is where the Queen spends part of her time. And when I say cottage, I mean a really big house. It costs millions of dollars to renovate. People are saying, they just moved in, now they're leaving. So the couple have said, hey, look, we want to pay this money back. But the palace has stressed that they are not going to comment on something that's been given a lot of attention, which is security. Big questions about the kind of security Harry and Meghan will get. The palace is saying, we're not going to talk about it. But in short, this is a major statement, but really it's what Harry and Meghan have wanted. They want to step back as royals, and it looks like they got what they wanted.
And a lot of people are saying, based on the statement that you just read, she is the Queen, but she sounded more like a grandmother there in the way she said it. How did the royal family come to this decision? We know Meghan and Harry had that decision, but this is a family decision. How did they get there?
Yeah, well, it was a tough one. We don't know the exact inner workings of how this came out, but we do know that the various staffs belonging to the Queen, to Prince Charles, to Prince William, all got together and tried to hammer this out. And they were ordered to. The Queen said on Monday that palace staff have only days to work this out, that she wanted a solution for her grandson. And as you said, very personal statement coming from the Queen, speaking as a grandmother, speaking, of course, as somebody who has a very affectionate and close relationship with Prince Harry. We know this to be the case. She's very, very fond of him, and clearly very fond of his wife, Meghan, as well. She says so in her statement, but we've also seen them in the public interacting with each other, and the Queen and Meghan clearly have some sort of rapport. The Queen on record saying that she likes the fact that Meghan is sort of a self-made woman. But how they came up with this decision, well, it was extraordinarily complicated. Omar, we've never seen this before. We've never seen such a senior member of the royal family step back in the way that Harry has, step back in the way that he, his wife, and his young son will. But more importantly, the fact that they will also be spending a significant amount of time outside of the United Kingdom. I think taking away of this title, this HRH, this His Royal Highness title, will mean that if they do plan to go to Canada, that makes it far less complicated constitutionally for Canada. Canada, of course, is part of the Commonwealth, very close links to the UK, very close links to the monarchy. So there are very big, very complicated, very academic questions about how Harry could live there. But now that he's no longer His Royal Highness, it's going to be a bit more straightforward, and I want to emphasize a bit more straightforward. It's still very complicated. But again, this was a very complicated move by the palace, but it seems that Harry and Meghan have managed to come up with some sort of solution that will work for them, and it seems to be something that the Queen has very strongly endorsed.
They also have a little one, Archie. Is he still going to be part of the royal family?
Absolutely. The Queen, of course, mentions her great-grandson here in this statement, saying, and I quote here, "Harry, Meghan, and Archie will always be much-loved members of my family." She goes on to say, "I recognize the challenges they have experienced as a result of the intense scrutiny of the last 2 and a bit years that they've had together. And Harry and Meghan have been under a lot of scrutiny. They have had a lot of attention. They are this megawatt couple. Everybody wants to know what they're doing. But here in the UK, the scrutiny can sometimes veer into different directions, sometimes a bit hostile. In fact, Harry and Meghan themselves, or Harry himself, has put out a number of statements sort of criticizing the way his wife has been covered. Here in the UK, a big conversation about whether the coverage of Meghan has been racist. Meghan, of course, is biracial. She comes from a mixed race background. She married into the royal family. It was sort of seen as we have this incredible new future of the royal family. The royal family is going to look differently, but it wasn't to last. Here we are, just 2 and a bit years later, or sort of a year and a half later, since that incredible wedding we saw of theirs, that sun-drenched wedding in Windsor, and everything seemed so perfect and seemed really like a fairy tale. But since then, the scrutiny has been very difficult. But in short, Meghan and Archie still very much part of the family. Harry also very much part of the family, but they cannot formally represent the Queen. That is one of the deal. What's a big part of the deal here is that they no longer formally represent the monarch. And as they go on and pursue this new life, some of it will be in commercial work, some of it will be making money on their own. It's been made very, very clearly that they will do it in the spirit of the monarchy, that they will honor the monarchy, which I think is pretty coded language for they will not engage in any business practices which might embarrass the Queen or the country.
And Imtiaz, for better or worse, Harry and William have lived their lives in front of cameras, TV and still photography, and it's well documented. They would go on a date when they were young men, and those young women would end up in the tabloids. It would end up being who is going to enter the royal family. How historic is this decision for members of the royal family to leave, to basically say, all right, I'm going to head out, I'm done? How are people in the UK taking this?
Look, it's huge, but I think people in the UK very much understand the pressures that people like Harry and William are. But at the same time, their relationship with the royal family is very different from, say, yours and mine understanding of the royal family. We kind of see them almost as celebrities. They kind of have these fairy tale lifestyles. But here in the UK, they're very much a function of the United Kingdom. In fact, I was talking to one senior royal correspondent who said it's almost as if here in the UK, the royals are sort of owned by the public. And so for Harry to step back in this way, there are some sections, and I do want to stress some sections of British society who are not happy about this, who have criticized Meghan and Harry of being ungrateful, for being arrogant, for not really seeing, honoring the duty that Harry was born into, that Meghan should have been far more aware of the pressures and the scrutinies. As you said, this is a spotlight that Harry, his brother, and indeed the rest of his family has been under pretty much since the day they were born. But more importantly, I think we have to talk about Harry's mother here for a second, Princess Diana. Harry, of course, has always had a very complicated relationship with the press. Many royal reporters have made it very clear, and Harry has said himself that he blames the press for his mother's death. Remember, in 1997, Princess Diana was being chased by the paparazzi in Paris when an accident happened and she died in that Paris tunnel, and photographs were taken of her as she lay dying. And that, of course, left a major scar, of course, understandably, on Prince Harry. And so his relationship with the British press and the scrutiny that his life has been under really since then is something that has really been quite aggravating for him, something that angers him. And he saw this happen happening all over again with his wife. Again, the scrutiny. Again, this sort of fishbowl that they were living in, and this sort of lens that they were always sort of peered through. I think it's just sort of became too much. We also see, Harry and Meghan have also launched a lawsuit against one of the major tabloids here as well, again, because of what they see as sort of intrusive behavior from the press. All of this is sort of this perfect storm, which I think has led us to this moment. But to suggest this all started with his marriage to Meghan, I think would be very unfair. I think Harry, for a very long time, has struggled with being a front-facing royal, has struggled with the scrutiny that comes with it. But here we are, a year and a half after his marriage to Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, and they are stepping back in a meaningful way.
Well, if you followed Harry's life, you know he's always had a little bit of an independent streak, like his mother. So it's playing out in front of us. MTS Tyab, thank you very much for your time.
Pleasure.